In this lecture, we're doing some set dressing. We're adding some stuff in there so that our game looks more lived in and our world has some personality to it. Let's get started. This is one of those lectures where if you're not really interested in having your game look good, then you can speed through it quickly, just understand the couple of things that I'm saying, but not necessarily go about doing it yourself. If you're interested in it, that's great. Let's spend some time doing that together. The main thing here is that if you've got a game and it's a big empty background where there's nothing there and you've got a couple of objects in the foreground and nothing in the background, the player's going to look at it and be like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Looks like someone ran out of time or got a little bit lazy. Likewise, if there's nothing in the foreground, if it's just basically, why are there a whole bunch of like buildings in a straight line, it's going to harm the immersion of your game. So let's talk a little bit about the way to do some easy set dressing, is what I call it. Set dressing is the terminology for if you've got a stage and you want the stage to have some props and have a background and all that kind of stuff to have it look good. So first of all, we want to think about foreground, midground, and background. The most notable thing for me here is we need some things in the background, aside from these two kind of leftover placeholder assets. I'm just going to pop to the side. I need some things in the background. And what I've given you, if we look at the project and the Game Dev TV assets in the models, we have some kind of cool building type things from our sci-fi pack that you can grab from the Game Dev TV website. Look for our asset packs in there. We've got our couple of first buildings here, which I think are going to make some nice background objects. What I might do is just scale up my ground, just to have it continue out there, just so I've got something to anchor where I'm putting it on, like what is ground level, so to speak. And I'm just going to drag them in. I won't worry about creating them as prefabs. They're not going to have collision on them. I don't really care if they're scaled and changed and whatever. I'm just going to drag them straight from my folder down here where they're already created as the prefabs that we brought in. They're not created as our prefab variants like our other objects that need collision on them. So I'll drag a building into the background there and scale it up, rotate it so it kind of looks like it's facing the correct way, and then put it a little bit to the side, a little bit up so it's above the, oh, it's quite big, isn't it? Above the ground. And there we go. There's a background element, and that's cool in that it says there's more to the world than just these things just here. And what I can do super quickly and easily, my favorite trick, Control D, move it to the side, scale it a little bit. What do we want? This a little bit smaller or squashed. So this is great with low poly objects. You don't have to keep them all in proportion. You can squash them a little bit. Squash, move it down so it's sitting on the ground. Rotate a tiny bit so it doesn't look like you've just duplicated them, which you have, but we don't want people to know that, do we? And move it to a slightly different plane. What I mean by plane is this one's lined up just there. We want this one lined up kind of back a little bit so it doesn't look like they're all just in a straight line, so to speak. And that's okay. So now when we play, that's cool. They're off in the distance, off in the background, and you can see we've got that parallaxing going on. Parallax is referring to the fact that things in the foreground are going to move more quickly across the screen than things in the background because of the perspective of how we're looking at them. And you might look at them and say, oh, are they going to be cluttered and getting in the way and visually distracting? Possibly, but that gives us a good reason to talk about post-processing in some upcoming lectures where we can give them some depth of field to make them blurry. So it says things you should focus on are going to be crisp and things in the background are going to be blurry, which is a really cool effect that you can easily make your game look snazzy just by doing some post-processing, which we'll talk about in the future. And I'm going to drag another couple of things in the background just to break up the skyline there. We'll make this one nice and stretched. Bloop. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll show you my thought process, or take you through my thought process, and we'll discuss it. And then, as I did in the previous lectures in the past, I'm just going to pause the video and lay some things down, then show you what I've done. So there's some background that we've started. Then we need to talk about the foreground. So when I have my game in play, you can see there's potential for things right very close to the camera to maybe get in the way of the camera, which I think is a really cool effect. It's like, oh, where'd my player go? I'm flying behind the tree, so to speak. I haven't given you any trees, but I've given you some other things in here. What shall we use? Maybe rocks is good for now, just to keep ourselves bounded by having that simple rock setup. So I'm going to find a rock, duplicate it, bring it all the way to the front, and for now I'm just going to put something generally in the way, and then we'll see what the effect of that is. Where's my rock? Okay, we don't see it, so I'm going to just raise it up. And then do I see it now? No. Did I put it too close? I might... we'll put it there. We'll put it where it's so obviously in front of the player. Okay. Well, what I could do is get my game window. That would be a smarter thing to do. We'll pop the game window there because the game window is going to show us exactly what's going on. Where is this rock? It's up too high now. Down there. So you can see it's been clipped because the camera is a certain distance from the player. So if I want to be able to see this thing in the foreground, I'm going to have to put it in a way. First of all, I'll shrink it down a little bit. That might be a good thing to do. And then see it's there. So as we're going to fly, if I put it there, it's going to be right in the way of the player, which is not so good unless that's what you're going for. If I pop it there and maybe put it down just about there, we'll stretch it so it's a bit wider. Then we're hiding as well. Here's one of the cool things. We can hide all of the sort of nonsense down here where we haven't really paid attention to how things are sitting on the ground, because this gives us a nice framing for our camera. So let's click on play, and you see there. And as we lift off, you can see that that's in the foreground because it gets itself out of the way pretty quickly. Okay, that's just one example of doing the foreground. I'm just going to give ourselves a bit more room so we can see these things here a little bit tidier. It's one example of foreground. I might just make this whole object a little bit wider. And so it's, yeah, over to the side a little bit there and up a little bit. So as we first start, it's as if we're kind of taking off from this group of rocks just here. See, as we take off and as the camera moves up, you can see that those rocks are moving up as well. So it gives the whole thing depth. It gives it three-dimensionality. I'm just going to be a little bit sneaky and duplicate my rock and move it over a couple of times. Duplicate, move it over again, and see how that goes in terms of whether the player is going to see it. Rotate them as we do. Rotate it in a couple of different directions. Rotate, rotate. You want to make sure that people at no point see floating rocks, because that's going to look a little bit odd, unless you've got, you know, an asteroids kind of game where they're supposed to be floating. Okay, so the one thing, this is good, I want to show you this. You want to make sure the player isn't at any point going to say, oh, I could potentially crash into that thing in the foreground. You need to be careful about that, because then it becomes very confusing. What's part of the game and what's just flavor? So here, I can't tell. Is that just a big old rock I'm about to land on, or is that in the foreground? So that's the main thing we need to be careful about with foreground assets, that we don't accidentally confuse the player about whether you can or can't bump into them. So I think for that one, the best thing for us to do is find that one, push it down a little bit further, and make it in closer. So it's sort of more of a mid-ground type thing. Foreground, background, and mid-ground. Fly over there. Oh, you know what I should do? We had a whole lecture of turning collision off, didn't we? What was the key for that? C? There we go. Turn the collision off. Okay, so you can see here, if I pause, we haven't talked about pausing much. If I pause at that point, I can grab my rock and move it to where I think it's going to be just poking into the scene. Which is kind of neat. It's like, hello, here I am. Pay attention to me. Maybe up to there. And so then we'll unpause. Okay, that's in a bad spot again because we think we're going to be able to bump into it. Okay, so you can see my thought process here. I won't go through this too much. My all-time favorite thing to put in the foreground are trees. So if you've got a game that's more of a tree type game, then that's a good thing to do. Let's see if we can put this rocket to pretend it's like a tree. And as I've said before, you want to make sure that the player doesn't think it's something that they can actually bump into. Is that in the right spot? Oh, there it is there. It's kind of, that's the tree effect that I like. See how just there it floated off camera? I've got my collisions turned off, so yeah. Anyway, so that was me just showing you foreground, a foreground asset, maybe not super well. And so then the last aspect to look at is the actual playing area. So this is the thing we might collide into. Make sure your collisions are feeling good. Do we want to have something just in there to cover that little gap? So we could put another object just there so it looks more interesting. I went and put these thingies, the observation windows on these rocks to pretend that there's like civilization on the inside there, mainly because that really stands out a lot more than the rocks. So it says, don't bump into me, which I like. Could probably do a similar thing over here or down there. That's why I put these white objects here, so it's quite clear I need to dodge those, and there's some rock in there as well. So we also want to make sure that this is feeling good in our mid-level, and we've got enough sort of substance there. So I'm going to pause the video and put a little bit of flavor in here. I'll give you a challenge, which is to add flavor to your world, add some foreground, midground, and background assets to make your world look lived in is the terminology. It's like there's an actual world and people and stuff there. It's not just a couple of assets that we've thrown together, and add any additional details to your game, obstacles, so that they are clearly defined, as I mentioned with my red observation tower things in the rock. And just a quick point that I realized I forgot to mention is if you click on your player and then just move your player around, you can see things without actually having to play your game. You can see how it all fits together. So there's your challenge. Do a little bit or do a lot. It's up to you. I'll see you back here shortly. Okay, welcome back. You can see I've dropped a whole bunch of stuff in my level. A couple of things I wanted to point out. I've put this rock wall around the back, just so when you look off into the distance, you don't see the edge of our ground plane. You see this kind of behind the background, so to speak. I've added just bits and pieces in there. Pretty happy with here. I added this as the main thing you collide with, and then I saw that from the perspective of the player, if I put one in front and one behind, it made it look more dynamic and not just like there's one thing there that you're crashing into. I put my rocket over here and thought, you know, what would be interesting? Yep, that's still quite clear. You can see the one you actually crash into, but you can also see the one in the foreground, the background. I quite liked that look. I thought that was neat. And then I shoved another one of them up there so that we're not relying upon this rock as being the thing you collide with. That's a lot of a cleaner line. So when you're using organic and not organic, sometimes the not organic or the man-made like this here, it's more of a clean line, whereas our rock up here is a little bit more angular and organic, and it's a bit harder to know what you'll collide into. So put my rocket back at the start. I'll just briefly show you how mine has come together so you can see the playthrough of it. Play, got stuff in the background. Oh, nearly collided. Just shoved a whole bunch of those buildings in. Here you can see I put some rocks just on the ground to break up the line so it's a little bit softer between the building and the ground. Same there, same there. You want to break things up so it's not just I stuck an asset on top of a ground plane. And there we go at the end. So there you go. There's the set dressing that I've done on my level. Just wanted to take you through that full thought process so that you've seen it. If you're making game jam games, this little step here of doing a bit of set dressing can go a massive way to making your world look lived in and making your game look a little bit more professional. And my request is, if you've put a little bit of love into your layout, is please take a screenshot and share it with us in the discussions so we can all have a look at it and marvel at how cool it is. And I'll see you in the next lecture.